and welcome to the Limitless Landscapers podcast. I'm Charlotte.
And I'm Paula.
And today we're giving you a bit of a behind the scenes on, our business recently, Paula's design and landscaping business, and how we've come to our future plans and conclusions.
As the co-founders of the Landscaper Circle, we help you get more money, time and freedom to become limitless through our experiences as fellow landscapers and our tried and tested methods. If you want help with your marketing, managing or growing your business, you've definitely come to the right place. If you're a landscaper, garden designer or supplier to the industry, then hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. Now, let's get back to the show.
So recently, I think it's fair to say, Paula, myself and Mike were all feeling a little bit like our business was going nowhere. Even though we can see it is, we wanted a clear plan on how we're going to move forward, what we're going to hit by the end of 2021 and beyond, and make sure that we were all on the same page. Because as much as your design and landscaping business is separate to TLC, they're all very much intertwined, aren't they?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Mike and myself work in both businesses, and Charlotte through TLC works on all landscape social media and marketing plans. So everybody works on all the businesses really. And we found that, we were just going in different directions, but not really noticing. And we decided to have a meeting. Now, this was all triggered because myself and Charlotte have been doing some personal work on ourselves, developing ourselves to try and develop our business and grow the businesses. And that was with our wonderful Heidi Mark, who you might have heard on a previous podcast. And also she has been in group coaching, if any of our members are listening. And she has really helped us develop our boundaries, our communication skills, and really to start looking at the future and what we all want from it. So it was her idea, sort of, to have a meeting with all of us. And it was pretty good because we started with our big vision. So individually, what we all wanted.
Yeah, and I think before as well, whenever we've had these sort of meetings, it's kind of been triggered by one person and the others are kind of like
dragged along.
Yeah, dragged along for want of a better word. But for this, I know Mike called and was like, I really want to sort things out. Paula was the same and I was the same. So we were all present. We all wanted to be there. We all wanted to plan out the future. You know, one of us wasn't completely distracted by something that was going on during the, work or going on during the day. We started off with our visions. It was kind of immediate things, 5 years and 10 years, which was really interesting because obviously Mike and Paula are husband and wife as well. So thankfully they
Thankfully our visions align in some way. I mean, mine's slightly different to what I think he wants, but hey ho, he's coming along for the ride.
Yeah, and we didn't keep it to, so if you want to do that with your business partners or even your partners in life, we did it, focused around the business, but also personal goals, like hobbies that we want to, take up that we've put to the wayside when we were growing the business, or, personal milestones. So for me, like getting married, moving out, having kids, that sort of thing. So it was all encompassing, not just focused on the business.
No, and I think the most important thing that we did was made the space. So we made the time. Myself and Mike had childcare arranged, so it was, no distractions. We made it a distraction-free zone. So although we had the phones, because just in case we had an emergency with the in-laws, grandparents, which we did, they were switched to silent. We weren't checking anything. We didn't have emails up. We didn't even have our laptops with us, did we? We literally used it as a creative space. So A3 sheets of paper, a calendar, planning sheets,
our favourite glitter pens.
Glitter gel pens that we love. Mike didn't get it, but we loved it. And just really being open and honest. So making the space and then being open and honest about what we all want from life, really. Because ultimately, if we're going to be working together for the next 10 years, then we need to make sure that not only our business goals align, but that each of us are achieving our personal goals along the way as well, because we don't want anyone to be unhappy, really.
Yeah, and I think it's important as well, even if you create that, we're not going to go on our phones, make sure it's off the table so you can't see them. I know there was a scientific study or something that even just putting the phone on the table can make a really big difference in the atmosphere. So just having that, so it's available, so if there was an emergency, as we said, but having that onto the side. And also discussing your personal goals, I think is kind of important, because say if I do want kids, I think it was in 5 years I put down, then that will affect the business in itself, because my role may change, or, if, I mean, I only want to move up the road, but say I wanted to move away, working, and that would change in how the business looks.
Yeah, and I think it's important, because ultimately, if you want longevity in your team, whether that's the team that you manage on the ground or your business partner or your partners in life, everyone's got to be happy. And if you don't share your goals, your vision, some people can just assume what you want and what you don't want. And I think that's the problem. It's having the assumptions there. So being able, and also being held accountable, because now I've said my big plan, that's out there now. I can't really retract it and pretend I'm not going to do it, because everybody knows.
And it feels good as well, because you know that you are a priority and that your happiness is a priority. And I think also, as you say, with those assumptions, it's not often ill-intended or anything like that. But I know when I said kids in 5 years, Mike was like, really? You want kids in 5 years? So it's just making sure that you're all on the same level, really, of understanding.
Yeah, and I think how it applies to you guys is thinking about how often you have meetings with teams, because I know part of what came out for us for Aura Landscapes is we don't have many team meetings anymore. We used to, and it's kind of dropped by the wayside, where we've had a period of making the business smaller and then regrowing it. So of course we now need to put back in the systems we had when we had a larger team, but doing it better. And I think communication, having regular meetings, one-to-ones and team meetings are really key. And I would urge everybody, despite how big your business is, to have these regular check-ins with staff and also your partner in life and business and everything else, just to make sure the communication is there.
Yeah, because we went through our visions and our goals, and then we moved on to specifically the business. So where we want to be by the end of 2021, 2022 to 2025, and 2025 plus. So, and
by the way, it doesn't have to be, sorry to jump in, but it doesn't have to be fancy. You don't have to create this fancy document. Ours was literally on paper, scribbled out. It's not exciting. It might be in glitter gel pen, but it's not exciting. It's just written out like lists. In fact, I'll show you one so you know. Just as an example, so you know, it's not exciting. It's just like that. So ultimately, you don't have to worry that it's got to look a certain way or anything like that. This is just for you to then be able to, what we used it for was to then plan the actions that we need to take in order to achieve these goals, big and small.
And if you're an avid listener of the podcast, I'm very much digital based. All my to-do lists are pretty much digital. I think I have a planner that's in paper, but for the most part, I love everything on digital. But for this, having the lack of computers means you don't get distracted by emails that are popping up or notifications. You have something also that you can all collaborate on. I know I've spoken about Dropbox paper where you can work on documents together, but it is different having a piece of paper in front of you and you all being able to scribble on it.
Yeah, I found it also is quite creative. It unlocks a creative process. And also working on each business at a time, we were all able to input and ask questions and kind of get more out of it, rather than just it being limited to, say, Aura Landscapes, me and Mike. Charlotte was there inputting, asking questions and trying to get more out of it. So yeah, I definitely think it was a really good way to kick off your business moving forward.
And I think it's good as well to include some of your different teams, particularly if you're in the office teams, on those meetings, because what was really helpful for Aura and the paving shop was that I'm the one doing the marketing through TLC. So when they're talking about future campaigns or plans, I'm going, well, this works really well currently for Aura. This doesn't work well. We've tried this before. This is what I would recommend. And then it all tying together. So it's not just you guys, as you said, you guys centered approach. It's well, actually, what is working, what isn't working, and what can we change on that? And the same from TLC, and working together with Mike also brings in a different perspective, and that worked really well.
Oh, absolutely. And I think what we gained hugely from it, not only finding out exactly what we all want and how the business we want it to look in the future, was actually planning out the action steps. So we had a calendar, just a basic wall planner calendar that you can get from Amazon for a £5, and we just mapped out different milestones for the rest of the year initially, and then we'll do the same for next year as well. But initially we just wanted to map out the rest of this year, like what dates do we want to achieve certain things, putting in the team meetings every month, putting in the meetings with me and Charlotte and Mike every quarter. I think we've done it.
I think we've done it every month,
actually.
actually.
Every month.
Yeah.
So we're kind of like working on that as well. So just putting everything in a calendar and having little deadlines. So one of our deadlines, for instance, really boring, but I need to get loads of uniforms. It's been on my to-do list for ages. It's not really exciting. I don't really find it exciting. It's quite boring, but I've got a deadline at the end of this month that they all have to have new uniforms, so I can give it to them on the first team meeting. So it means I've got to do that in the next few weeks. And Charlotte knows that, Mike knows that, so I've got accountability there.
Yeah, and that's why we scheduled the regular meetings for ourselves, so that we can keep each other accountable on all of the businesses, and also review stats, review how things have worked. If we've set a milestone and it's passed, what happened there? What can we learn for next time? But also for you guys, even if it's more abstract. So one of them was Mike completely getting off the tools, still managing jobs, but off the tools on a day-to-day basis. Initially it was like, oh, there isn't really a deadline for that because it factors so many things. But actually, if you never have a deadline for something, you're never going to prioritize it, or our next month, or it just becomes something that's always delayed. Yeah. So I know you put it down for Christmas Day.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily like,
Happy Christmas.
Yeah. It's not necessarily like, oh, it's going to happen tomorrow, but it gives you that time and that deadline to be like, right, by the end of the year, I am going to be off the tools.
Yeah, and that's quite a big goal, but having that in his mind, for Mike, he's always been quite not against the idea. He's wanting to be off the tools for a long, long time. However, he gets dragged back into working in the business rather than on the business. And he's now come to a realization that's not the way he wants his life to be or what he wants to be doing. So he's actually now taking the steps it needs to happen to be able to do that. And it all started with this bloody planning meeting.
Yeah, and I think as well, it was really good to be able to sit down and look at, right, how are we going to make sure that this happens in the future? Obviously, set those monthly meetings. After the meeting, I sent out an email. I was like, this is why I think that meeting went really well, as we discussed, like the no phones and stuff. And it's not always going to be possible. Obviously, Paula and Mike have got two amazing, beautiful children. So whilst Mike is on the tools, it will have to be in the evenings, and they will be there. So that isn't often a distraction-free zone. But as we move forward, as he does come off the tools, we have it during the day. But I know we also set in December for us to do a little planning boot camp retreat, which we're well excited about.
We are. So that's quite exciting. It's not just the actionable steps, I suppose, in the business day to day and the things you need to get done, tick off to move forward. It's also about pre-planning your planning, really, because if you can schedule in, I know December is generally quieter. I wouldn't say it's quiet, but it's quieter. Then we have an opportunity that we can take a couple of days to do some real work on planning the business for the following year. So that will probably be when the next wall planners come out, and we'll be marking the following year up with new goals and new things. But also some of the things that we discussed in the planning meeting, which was only last week, are already starting to take shape. And it's just insane. And I think it's because what you focused on grows. It's a well-known saying. So where we have always been very focused on what's going on day to day, firefighting. I know lots of you are like this. It's a very busy time of the year for us and many landscapers and designers out there. And it's obviously gone crazy because of COVID. And I'm not knocking it. It's great. However, we do have to make that time to step back, because otherwise you will just spend this busy period firefighting, working in the business, and then get out the other side and be like, whoa, we haven't really moved forward. We've just stayed the same. And I think that's what we were conscious was happening. We weren't moving in as forward as quickly as we like. I mean, I'm impatient, so I want it done yesterday.
Yeah, and I think as well, booking in those times, particularly with so we're looking at going away for 2 days. And it's dog friendly, so Paula and Mike can bring the dogs. We just got to sort childcare, but it's going away, brings you completely out of the business. You're not in near contact, apart from obviously through the telephone, which again, we can then implement those distraction-free zones. But also it's a treat, to celebrate what you have already done, to celebrate the year that we've had. That for us was, well, if we achieve all of this, that's going to be a real awesome couple of days spent away, planning on things, but also just a celebration of 2021.
Yeah, and I also think that's something that we don't do as much. I mean, I never think what I've got achieved is enough until you look back and think, well, actually, we've done quite a lot. And I think that's what we need to start doing, is celebrating even the small successes you have in your business. And I don't mean you don't have to go away. You could just crack open a bottle of champagne if you want, or go and have half a day off and spend time with your family and friends. It can be anything, or just treat yourself to something that you love doing. Maybe, I don't know, you like kayaking or something and you want to go out for a couple of hours. It's just celebrating small successes as well as big, successes as well in the business.
Yeah, and I think it's something that's often a bit like taboo. It's like, if you're not at the business, you're not on the business. Like, if that was that retreat, we're not working, but you are working on the business, and without that, then the business isn't really, as we say, going to go in the way that you want it to go.
No, you have to spend time planning, you have to spend time getting your focus in the right places, otherwise you'll be focused on doing the things all of the time and not getting anywhere. So I think the moral of this story is basically start dreaming is one thing, because we have got big dreams. And they're probably not what you expect. However, it's being able to think big first and then work backwards to where you are now and see how are you going to make that achievable, because it's all very well having big dreams and goals for yourself and the business, but if you don't plan the actionable steps you need to take, it won't happen.
No,
because you have to take action.
And yeah, if you're looking for kind of a practical guide for how to implement this, book in a date for you and all your team or the key players or whoever you want for a meeting. Start with your vision and goals, each of you, one by one, separately. Yeah. You separately work on it, bring it to the meeting, so that when you're at the meeting, you can just go, right, this is my vision, this is my personal goals, go around the table, around the room, then go into getting a mind map out of the business, end of 2021 or end of the year that you're listening to this, the next 3 years, then 5 years plus. And these are just the big goals. This is not nitty gritty. This is like, I want an office. I want to get off the tools. I would like to get X inquiries a month.
I'd like another team.
Yeah, I'd like another team. Those sorts of goals. Then once you've got all of that mapped out, and obviously do that for multiple businesses if you have multiple, then you go into, right, have a year calendar or digital calendar, whatever you prefer, and map out deadlines and milestone dates for things. Obviously, if it's certain things like we had Futurescape in November, that's obviously 2 set days in November for Futurescape. So those key dates put in there, start putting in the deadlines and milestones, and then from there you can work backwards into what we call focused actions.
Yeah, and we also do have the free productivity planner that we've got, which could help make you focus maybe when you're looking at your own visions and goals, and also thinking about focused actions. We're also here, so you can book in one-to-one calls with us, have a look on the Done For You information for other ways we can help you, because if you've got a lot that you want to achieve, but you haven't got the time, it might be worth outsourcing, delegating, or just ditching it. Do delegate, ditch.
And a good example of that would be, maybe it's one of your big goals for the end of the year is to launch a new website that feels more like your business and where you want it to go. Well, you could set a deadline for that, yes, but it's contacting, maybe outsourcing, because you don't necessarily have the time or the skills and the knowledge, or just don't want to do it. Not everyone wants to do their website. No. So if that's the case, then you can message us about Done For You for your website and get that ball rolling, because a lot of these things seem very big and overwhelming, I think. Like, one of ours was getting an office, but as soon as you start contacting people, it's not that big, really. It just feels overwhelming because of the difference it's going to make.
Yeah, and I think, like, we're here to help and support you guys. We're here for landscapes, garden designers, and business and horticultural industry per se. So if you've got any questions, or you're struggling with this, or you want to know more on this, then give us a shout, because we're here to help you at the end of the day.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys for listening as always. Leave us a 5-star review if you absolutely loved it, and always contact us with questions that you want us to answer on the podcast episode through social or email, and we will see you on the next one.
See you later, guys.